Okay, so this just arrived in the mail. It is supposed to be the Ultimate Collector Series Jango Fett Slave 1 or Jango Fett Starship. We'll see what it's called here in a second. I have not seen it. I'm recording this in March, so a few weeks out from launch. It's before it has leaked online, so I'm going into this fully with no expectations other than I hope it's good. Here we go. Oh, I'm gonna keep my eyes closed. I don't wanna see it. Oh! Oh my god! Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh. Wow. All right. This looks pretty good. So it's real, it's here, and it's not called the Slave One. It's Jango Fett's Starship. This one is pretty sweet in my opinion. I haven't been this hyped for a UCS set probably since the Venator. I'm a big prequel fan, as many of you know, and getting Jango Fett Starship, or the Slave One, is pretty sweet. This set's going to have 2,970 pieces. The set number is 75409. It will launch on May 1st, I believe, of 2025, and the rumored price for this is supposed to be $300. And if that's true, 2,970 pieces is actually a pretty good price per piece ratio, just about 10 cents per piece. Now, the price is supposed to be $300 US. That's what's rumored. I hope that's true, because if it's $300, 2,970 pieces. That is almost 10 cents per piece. That's a good ratio. That's what we like to see. And this actually doesn't seem like the most overpriced Lego Star Wars set, which is saying a lot. Hopefully that's true. You can use the link down in the description. It'll take you to lego.com. You can see what the final pricing is there. Fingers crossed again, it's $300. That's what everybody's been saying. And it looks like a $300 set. It looks amazing. I'm already seeing different techniques from the Slave One that we got, back in 2016, 2015. And so I personally think now is a good time to bring this back. Now, the last time we got Jango Fett's Starship, or what it was called then, the Slave One, was in 2002 when Attack of the Clones was coming out. Over 23 years ago. That's how long it's been since we got this set. Turning the box around, unfortunately my box is a little crushed here. That's a little sad to see, but man, this thing is packed with parts. I can just feel it. It is probably the maximum amount of parts you can get in a box size like this without going wider. But on the back, you'll notice some pretty sweet things going on. First off, Lego's not changing anything crazy here comparative to when we got the UCS Slave One. Similar stand design, that looks good. 2 minifigures in this set. Jango Fett, of course, which is an all-new design with arm printing, but what's really unique about him is this new antenna piece for his helmet. That hasn't been redesigned since the Clone Wars sets came out in 2008, which, believe it or not, that was 17 years ago now. We're also getting a new version of young Boba Fett here. We'll take a look at what both of these minifigures look like in depth in just a minute. And then I have to note, the bombs here, the really awesome bomb that goes off when Obi-Wan is chasing Jango in Attack of the Clones. That's a great inclusion. I'm glad that's there. I wonder if that's a play function. We'll, I guess, see here shortly. All right, I don't know about you, but I am certainly ready to start building this bad boy. I do want to thank Lego for sending this set over for review. And without further ado, let's go into the in-depth of Jango Fett's Starship. So unfortunately, we're starting things off on a pretty big weak point. There is a lot of stickers in this set, some of these being very frustrating, specifically on the seismic charge. I'll talk more about that here in a few minutes, but I really wish there was more printed pieces in this set. In fact, there's only one printed piece, which is the plaque. A little bit disappointing to see that. There is 2 instruction booklets, and I gotta say the build for this set was fantastic. So while there's a lot of stickers, the build quality is excellent. And when you open up this instruction booklet, boy, are you greeted by some nostalgia here of Attack of the Clones. This looks so cool. I absolutely love seeing this concept art too. Man, does this just get you hyped for building this set. I also love that they have a little bit of inclusion here from the scenes in the movie. Specifically, gotta love seeing Geonosis in the instruction booklet. After opening up the set, you'll find 23 paper bags or plastic bags, depending on where you're at in the world. I did have this one plastic bag with the Technic beams and the plaque. That actually is the last bag you'll use when you're building the stand at the very end of the set. And then you'll also notice we have a little paper bag off to the side here, and that's actually what's housing the brand new, specifically designed windshield piece for this set. It's 18 studs long. The prior version for the Slave One from 2015 was 16 studs long, so there's a 2 stud difference between that version and this one. And here it is, the Ultimate Collector Series Jango Fett's Starship, or Slave One, depending on who you are and what you want to call this ship. I also have some extra insights because I got to interview the designer of this set, so we'll talk about that as we go through this. But first, let's talk about these minifigures, starting of course with Jango Fett here with the dual pistols, and yes, your eyes are correct, those are printed arms. For the first time ever on this figure, we've gotten a lot of variations of Jango over the years, but never with arm printing, and it's finally here, a sought after thing from the community, and I love how this looks. There's also a brand new helmet print, there's a new antenna, which we'll talk about here in a second. Jango's jetpack here is the gunmetal color, which I think looks fine, but is not accurate. When I looked back at the reference material, it is clearly silver, so that's something that obviously was overlooked. You'll also notice you do have a hairpiece that you can add on Jango, double-sided face print here as well. I love both expressions. We actually have an angry Jango face and a regular Jango face, which is actually pretty funny because there was a variation between the last Jango that had that. As for that new antenna piece, well, you can see here it's way more detailed than the prior Clone Wars version that dates all the way back to 2008. It's a specific mold just for the antenna, and as you can see, 3 of them are included in the set. So you get 2 extras, so you can put it on, say, Captain Rex or a clone trooper, whatever you would like to do with them. I think it's very nice that we get a couple extras because Clone Wars fans absolutely will want this piece to accessorize their troopers. Next up, we have young Boba Fett, and this figure is definitely controversial within the community, and I have to agree, I'm a little disappointed by this young Boba. First off, the hairpiece, not my favorite. There is a dual-sided face here. I like the torso print. I also like the colors that LEGO chose here. The sand blue arms are supposed to match Jango. I was rewatching Attack of the Clones, so that is actually accurate. They're not supposed to be dark blue. As for the color changes here, if we look at the prior version of young Boba, you can see that LEGO has switched it entirely. We have this new bright light blue color for the new version of Boba, and you can see that I actually like the new bright light blue. But what's really frustrating is the lack of dual molded legs. And it's also worth noting that if you want mid legs, there's only one other set that had this color, bright light blue mid-leg pants in it, which was the Stranger Things set. And here's what that looks like. I think mid-leg should have been the choice for Boba Fett. I think that would have been a better option. But it's also worth noting in the mini legs, the smaller ones, that there is a dual mold for the Hobbits. And so it could have been done where you could have black boots and the mini legs and still please fans, but that just isn't the case. And then just for fun, let's compare the prior version of Jango Fett from the Hyperdrive ring set. You can see there's actually some pretty big helmet design differences. The T-shape is narrower on the new version. You can see obviously the new version has arm printing, which looks great, but the old version has the more accurate silver jetpack. So I really wish that was included. Otherwise, it would pretty much make Jango here a perfect figure. It's just the jetpack is the only omission. So now let's turn our attention to the Ultimate Collector Series Jango Fett Starship. Boy, oh boy, has this thing impressed me. The build experience was fantastic. The build techniques were out of this world. The accuracy surpasses the Slave One from 2015 by a mile. It's kind of nuts, and it really shows what modern day LEGO Star Wars designs and techniques can achieve. It's very impressive. Plus, obviously, we have a lot more parts available than we did 10 years ago. We'll compare the Slave One against this new Jango Fett Starship here shortly. You can see on the backside tons of different details to explore. We'll go through all of that, but first let's start at the very bottom of the nose here with the turrets. You can see that they move about 180 degrees, and you can actually just set them in any place you want and they'll stay there. They have a nice amount of friction. Now underneath the turrets there are supposed to be some opening doors that reveal some rocket missiles that are supposed to pop out, but unfortunately that feature was omitted due to design constraints. You can see here the flaps on the side of the wings of course move with gravity. It's not connected to the other side, so they freely independently move between each other. You can see here the entire set is extremely sturdy. There's actually nothing in the instruction manual that mentions that, oh, you can't pick it up from this way or that way. You can pretty much pick it up from wherever on the set except for the windshield because that'll pop off. But pretty much every other part of the set won't break off. You can pick it up pretty much wherever you want because it's that sturdy, and that's pretty impressive. As for the display plaque, you can see here it is still printed and it's still using the matte finish, so that's good to see. That's the only printed piece in the set. The stand is very reminiscent of the UCS Slave One. The only difference is that it's slightly more angled. Moving on to the actual Jango Starship, you can see here that there is some ingenious techniques being utilized to get this slopage. It is very impressive what the designer behind the set has achieved here, but I will say there are some new elements that are making these curves work. We have this new 8-stud long curve that's being utilized here on the bottom as well as on the side near the windshield. That's an interesting new piece specifically apparently made for this set. There's also some great greebling around here where that dark orange is happening. There's also, again, great stability. You can pull up any of these panels and they shouldn't fall off, at least not easily. And then functionality wise, we do have an opening door here. It's actually such a simple design, yet looks fantastic, and love the fact that the minifigure fits perfectly under that Technic beam. Like, it's made to fit Jango perfectly. That's pretty awesome and shows the little bits of detail that we're being paid attention to. Next, we have the underside of the Starship. You can see here there's lots of great snot techniques, and the way these all line up and the fact that they just work so seamlessly was so unbelievably satisfying building this portion. There's some clear pieces elevating the set, so when you lay it flat on the table, not everything is touching, it's only the clear pieces. And then you can see here, yes, we have the seismic charge included, which is pretty sweet. Unfortunately, this is all stickered, which I really wish were printed pieces because those were not fun to put stickers on. The doors here to the seismic charge do open and close, but they are manual. You'll have to pull up the plates and then reattach them like so. I wish they were sliding. I asked the designer whether he considered it. He said yes, but it just didn't work with what was going on here. There's also this opening door. Apparently that's just so if you have pieces that get lodged into there, you can get them out. That's what the designer at least told me. And you can see here, this is how the stand attaches. The next part of the set is, of course, the interior, which is going to be the cockpit area. So you'll see here, there's actually 2 different levels. There's 2 seats on the bottom and 3 seats on the top. Of course, the top is where Jango and Boba are hanging out, destroying asteroids, blowing up Obi-Wan, and you can see that this whole section actually pulls out so that way you can easily place the figures on it. Now, this little subsection for the control panel with the seats is actually pretty ingenious. I love how simple yet elegant the build is. Those backrests actually fold down so you can put the figures in a little bit easier. There's a few control panels here. Again, unfortunately, all stickers, but I do like how it's laid out. It's very ingenious, very easy to place the figures, and it looks very accurate to what you see in the movie. Now, as for that new windshield piece, unfortunately, you do have to place some stickers on it. I really wish those little bits of detail were printed there at the end. You also have to add some parts onto it as well. You can see here, as for that sub level or second level of the cockpit, you can fit whatever minifigure really. I put a Cad Bane in here and he actually fits very well. There is no extra figures though. And then you can also see there's a fun little Easter egg at the top here that is in reference to the planet that Jango steals the Slave One from, which is pretty funny. And then we also have this secret little hidden Easter egg area. You pull this back panel off behind the cockpit and you'll see on the back side, yes, that is supposed to be a back-to-tank, which is a great reference to, again, hardcore Star Wars fans. But this area also acts as a place of storage, so you can put the pistols as well as the jetpack from Jango there so they're not interfering with the actual cockpit. Though I'm not sure where I'm supposed to put either the hairpiece or the helmet. That wasn't very clear in the instructions or from the designer, so I wish there was a little bit more thought there. When you close everything up, you can clearly see both Boba and Jango through the windshield, which looks so cool. And I just gotta say, I love the color scheme. The aesthetics of Jango Fett's Starship really do stand out, and Boba's as well. I love both. And speaking of which, let's finally bring in that 2015 UCS Slave One and compare the two. And off the bat, I mean, you can notice some real differences. I think to some, you'll be like, they kind of look the same, but look closer. Look at the dark red, like oval shape of the Slave One, and then compare it against the Starship from Jango Fett. You can see there is a massive differences and more accuracy happening with this newer version of the Starship or Slave One. You'll also see that they're pretty much identical in size. You could say that the Slave One is like maybe 1 or 2 studs longer, but it's pretty negligible in my opinion. On the backside, there's also some pretty big differences. The new version is way smoother, a little bit more detail going on, a little less from the inner structure showing, and you can see things like this dish, for example, stick out far less on the newer version of the Starship. You can also see the techniques here are completely different. We have normal stacked like slopes versus snot technique on the new version, which looks far more accurate and definitely has a more sleeker, Ultimate Collector Series look now. Now, I don't want to knock down the UCS Slave 1 all that much. I do think it has stood up very well over time. It looks really good even today, but the new Jango version is, I think, superior in terms of design. It's also worth noting, I know all of you are going to wonder this, can you color swap the two? Well, the fact that there's brand new slope pieces that aren't available in like dark red, for example, it is currently not possible to color swap the new Jango Fett set to the Slave 1. I also have to point out it is very rare to see a name change on an information plaque for a UCS set, but here we are in 2025 with Jango Fett Starship instead of the Slave 1. Next, I'm sure all of you want to see this. What does Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter from Episode 2 look alongside Jango Fett's UCS Starship? First off, the figures from this set, the Kaminoan as well as Obi-Wan, perfectly complement the two figures we get in the UCS set, making these two sets an ultimate combo pair. And I love the fact that they actually scale correctly to each other. Now, I'm not positive whether this is perfect 1-to-1 scale ratio, whether Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter should be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, or vice versa with Jango Fett's Starship. But to my eye, based on what I can tell from Attack of the Clones, they look about right in terms of the Slave 1 or the Starship being a little bit bigger, or actually quite a lot bigger. But I also have to say, it is extremely fun to recreate the scene of the seismic charge, and that is exactly what I did. So I took some clear pieces and a little stand from my display and threw this together, and it looks pretty great to my eyes. Now, if you can't tell, I'm having a blast displaying these two sets side by side. This is such a great way to display them on your shelf. Now, lastly, let's take a look at some other UCS sets, specifically other ones from the Attack of the Clones. So this is our trio here. This is all of the UCS sets that LEGO so far has made from the movie, and it's pretty cool to see them all side by side. This is really cool, actually. As a prequel fan seeing this almost brings a tear to my eye because they all look fantastic. I think a lot of people forget about that UCS Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter. I think that thing looks actually pretty good in today's standards. I don't know if LEGO could do it all that much better. It is a set that came out in the 2010s and it never sold that well, so it's kind of funny that it'll probably go up in value because fans will want to display the Jango Fett Starship alongside the Starfighter. And then as for the Republic Gunship, you know, if I were to choose between these three sets, I'm still going with the Gunship. Even with the figure controversy, I still love that thing to death. But this UCS Jango Starship comes in very close because it really has blown me away. As a prequel fan, I am so satisfied with what this set offers. And it's even more wild to think that that UCS Slave 1 had 1,000 less pieces than this set, yet they're the same scale. That's pretty wild, yet shows the design behind it. Man, this is our third UCS set now from Attack of the Clones, and I think it's a beauty. Everybody's reaction that I've seen of this set has been positive. Nobody has been complaining about the design of this set. I think it's fantastic. It's the same scale, of course, as Boba's Slave 1 that we got in 2015, but with significantly more piece usage here. We're going up to almost 3,000 pieces, and that thankfully helps justify the price increase. Obviously, Boba's Slave 1 in 2015 was $200. Jango's Starship here today is $300. That's a huge price increase. However, you are getting more pieces there, and it is a significantly different build. The only similarity from this compared to the Slave 1, this whole section of the Technic inner structure is almost exactly the same from the Slave 1 from 2015, but everything else here is brand new and different. It doesn't feel like a recolored version of that set. A lot of cool new designs, a lot of new pieces being introduced in this set. You know, brand new windshield piece, brand new antenna, brand new curve specifically designed to this set. And that's all great, but according to the LEGO Star Wars design team, these new pieces are the reason why we didn't get the dual molded legs on Boba Fett. I really think we should have gotten those black boots. I would argue that the set is just as important as the minifigures. Like, it's a good 50-50 there. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this matter, because LEGO listens to this stuff. Do you feel like they should prioritize the minifigures over the design aspects of the set? Like, I am genuinely curious to hear what you guys have to say. Me, personally, I think I would have knocked out one of these new slope pieces, maybe this new 8-stud long curved. I don't think that was absolutely necessary. You could use other LEGO elements to achieve a similar look. It wouldn't look as clean, but it could work. And if that means we get dual molded legs, then I think that's a fair compromise. I just feel like a little too much was done here, prioritizing the set over the figures. However, Jango is fantastic. I mean, I don't have really any complaints. I think the new antenna piece is awesome. Hopefully that shows up in a future LEGO Star Wars set. If I had to imagine, it will probably show up in a future battle pack. I'll be surprised if that's limited to Jango's Starship. But obviously it'll be a very sought after piece to Clone Army builders because, well, the new antenna definitely looks superior, at least in my opinion. And then I also have to mention, you know, a lot of sticker uses on this set. The only printed piece is the plaque. That's a bit much. I was expecting at least one other printed piece, but a lot of stickers. I think it was like 18, 20 different stickers. That was a little too far for me, especially at the price point of $300, but ultimately, though, the set does look great. It wasn't a hassle putting on these stickers. A lot of them are very just basic ones. They're not anything to write home about. So ultimately, is this set worth $300? With the piece count of being almost 3,000 and brand new and exclusive minifigures and the set looking as good as it does, I'd say it's a fair value. It's definitely better value than what I just reviewed a few weeks ago, the Shire from Lord of the Rings. That thing is $270, 2,000 pieces. This is a better value in terms of price per piece ratio. I do feel like you're getting an excellent UCS set. I mean, this thing literally looks so good on the shelf. I mean, these colors look great. It's different. It's multicolored. It's not one singular color that we're so used to. It's not all brown. It's not all gray. It's not all black. It's actually colorful in a nice, pleasing aesthetic way. So this is going to stand out differently on your shelf, and it looks so good. I am very, very happy with the overall design. So, do you go out and buy this day one come May 1st of 2025? Well, when you include the fact that it'll come with the Star Wars GWP for 2025, I mean, yeah, I don't see any reason why. If you're interested in this set, I think it's a fair value, especially when you stack on the gift with purchase. This is a day one buy for me, guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to use that link down in the description. Come May 1st, you can order Jango Fett Starship. Thanks again to LEGO for sending this set over for review. Hope you guys have a great, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.